Welcome to Engaging Young Women in Positive Youth Development. My name is Vanessa Stewart. I work for, let me get the title right, we just changed it. It's on the board, Workers' Safety and Compensation Board. It's the blue and yellow building on the corner of Strickland that you wish was an IKEA, but it's not. You know the one. I'm here to keep these two on track and let them speak and take your questions at the end. I do work with Natalie, just so you know ahead of time, and I do work with the program she's referencing. So sometimes I might jump in with ideas. I am not biased to her program. I also love Alex's program. So our first speaker is Natalie Tavierge. She works for the same organization as me, and she's going to tell you about the Iron Women Running Club.
Thank you. I've done this presentation 3 times, twice today, and this is the most nervous I've been. Oh, okay. It's the mic, it's the lights, it's the stage. So bear with me. My name is Natalie. Some of you I've seen before, so you'll hear some of my stories. I'll try to keep them fresh for you. Can you flip it? Yep. So this is where we work. It's on the corner of 4th and Strickland, Workers' Safety and Compensation Board. Everyone calls it WCB, so that's where we work. I've been there for 12 years. I love my job. And the main part of our job is to teach in the classroom, so we do one-off presentations. When I started working for the board, the main focus was on physical injuries, and I'm very grateful, but we really shifted our focus a lot to work on psychological injuries and preventing them. So I started talking about mental health, which is a huge passion of mine. So that's one of the big changes. These are some of the presentations we give for our one-offs. We talk about risk assessment, and we talk about violence and harassment, which falls under online safety for our youth. And we go in and do programs with Lego in the younger classes and talk about like what personal protective equipment you need when you're going boating with your family for the weekend. So this is what we did for years. This is my family. I'm a trained teacher. That was my background coming into it. This is my wacky little family. But before I came to the Yukon, I've been here for 15 years. I grew up in New Brunswick, in Shediac, a little town called Shediac, which is the lobster capital of the world, if you didn't know, if you ever get a chance to go there. It's a beautiful place. This is me in, I think, like grade 3. I forgot to mention that I've had long hair for my whole adult life, mostly because my mother chose to give me this haircut throughout most of my life. This is me in grade 5. This is me in grade 7. You can see the changes. That is my middle finger on my face that I'm showing. And this is me in grade 9. I actually had to crop out my family from this picture because people didn't know who I was. My mom is 35 in this picture with a perm, and they were like, "Is that you?" And I was like, "No, I'm the one scowling on the bottom with the black hair." So when we talk about women and youth and young women, it definitely fit into that statistic on Ian and Jen's slide. I definitely partook in risky behaviors, substance abuse, smoking, and all of these pieces. I went to school here in elementary school. This is Shediac Cape School, very small school. And our field in the back, which we played all sports on, was a cow field. And the Wellings, local family, had to come corral the cows back in often. People are surprised by this about me, but I am really bad at sports. I love to move, but I cannot connect with a ball or a birdie or anything. It's embarrassing. I coach soccer for my daughter, and I would kick the ball and miss. It was really embarrassing. But I decided in school that I was going to try out for running because I had a lot of energy. And so my coach brought us out to the backfield and we would run. And then we went to our first track meet and he said, he didn't say anything actually. And we went out and I ran as hard and as fast as I could for 1 minute. And everyone passed me and I walked the rest of the time. And that was it for me. I sucked. I sucked at sports. I really struggled in school. So I gave up. I didn't want anything to do with it. And these are my parents. They're still together. They're loving. They're wonderful. I had all these things set up for me, and yet I still struggled. You know, I was very fortunate to grow up in our home, but I felt I had a hard time feeling like I belonged in school or with any of those activities. My daughter recently got diagnosed with ADHD, and I was like, what? That's not true. And after I started going to all these talks and doing all this research, they were like, it's hereditary. And I was like, who has it? And all my friends were like, you do, dummy. We've known this about you your whole life. And so there's an intensity that comes with that. And also, I often, most of my life, felt like I'd wake up and without the caffeine, feel like I've drank about 180 cups of coffee every day. So I really needed to challenge this energy somewhere, which caused me to turn to different avenues.
You don't want the next slide yet. You have to tell your story first.
Oh. So I started running, and my friend, this is how I started running. My friend said, Natalie, I bet you could run for 20 minutes. And I said, no way. There's no way I could run for 20 minutes. I tried and I can't do it. And he said, I'll take you out and we'll run. And so we went out, and he ran so slow beside me that a baby could have crawled faster than I was running. But I did it. And that was it for me. That was a click for me that got things started. So I started running a little bit more, and I'm embarrassed to say, but I smoked as well. And I would come in and out of smoking, but I really struggled with it. And one day I said, I'm either going to run or I'm going to smoke. I can't do both anymore. This is stupid. So I called my dad and I said, Dad, I'm going to try to run 17 kilometers. I found this trail. We were visiting my sister. And he said, okay, I'll come on the bike. And I did it. And it was so easy. And right away, I got back to the house. I signed up for a marathon. I bought my flight and I ran this marathon and I did it. And I called my dad after and he said, I have something to tell you. He said, we missed a loop. You actually only ran 8 kilometers. And I was like, I don't care. So I never smoked again. And this is my face as I crossed the Victoria Marathon. Thank you. Thank you. But I feel like I found this picture years later and I was like, I look like I'm in this like ecstasy, but I feel like I really found who I was. I found out how to burn off all that coffee and how to be calm in the stillness. I don't know if you know who this is. I'm not saying his name right. Bruni Surin. Do you know who this is? He was a marathon. Not a marathon. He was a relay, thank you. And he went to the Olympics. And I heard him speak one time at a WCB convention. So all these people are sitting in the room, and he comes up to the mic, and he looks out in the crowd, and he said, tell me your dreams. And everyone, they could have dropped a pin. Like, nobody said anything. And then he said, you know, I go around and I give these talks, and I go into grade 1, and I said, tell me your dreams. And everyone raises their hand. And he said, and then I go into grade 5, and most of them. And he said, and then I go into grade 12, nobody really. He said, and then I come and talk to adults. He said, and nobody raises their hand. And then he screamed, tell me your dreams. And people in the room shot up all over the place. And this is a WCB convention. People are like caseworkers and like safety officers. And they're like, I want to be a bus driver. I want to be a hairdresser. Like, it's just like, but it got me thinking, like, what is my dream? And how do I do this day to day? How do I bring this back into my work and in my life? So I decided that I was going to try to run a little bit farther and see what I could do, because I knew I really liked this and it fit a piece of it satisfied this part of me. So I signed up to run 80 kilometers. And I didn't sleep for 2 months before. I was terrified. I did not know if I was going to make it. And I made it. And when I crossed the finish line, it was like the sky is the limit. People ask me that, why do you run? And I said, because it reminds me I could do anything. And then I decided that I wanted more of this feeling. So I decided to run 100K. And then I said, anybody who wants to come. I don't care if you run for 2 minutes, run with me. And people came along on my journey. And we probably had like 40 people come out. And then I decided, why don't I try to run 100 miles last winter? And again, people came out and ran little pieces. So I knew that was part of my dream, but I wanted more. I thought about when I grew up and all the choices I made, and what if I could have done this back then? How different would things have been, you know, if I could have had something in place? And also my kids are so motivated by these pieces, and it's so inspiring for me to watch them um, like challenge themselves because they see me doing it. So I decided to start this group, a running group called Iron Women. And I called it Iron Women because if you don't know what an Iron Man is, it's this huge feat, right? You swim, you bike, you run, really far distances. But I find it's a barrier right away for women, the fact that it's called an Iron Man. I always call it an Iron person. So I decided to call it Iron Women. I applied for a Youth Roots grant to get started, and I suggested it at my workplace. And they said, "What does this have to do with prevention?" But we talked about it, and it you know, because when we meet, we can talk about all those pieces that we're talking about in the classroom. I was really surprised. I was shocked and so grateful that people showed up. We ran the program in the end of the pandemic, and sometimes the facilities were closed that we were using, and we would run outside if it was warm enough, which was really great, which is one of these pictures. And I started off with 11 girls. My daughter's actually behind me there. She's younger. I let her sneak in, and she's a firecracker. Then with the Youth Roots grant, we hired coaches and we pay them, and they're not runners. None of the girls who came into group were runners, and the coaches weren't either. We have 3 in this photo that's still, one of them's still there twice a week, and 2 others come in to do special programming. It's been a huge piece to have them there. I told the story twice this morning, but at one point I was running with the girls, and a girl who moved away, who I love, was running beside us, and she was talking about her cat and skiing and you know, talking a million miles a minute while we're running. And all of a sudden, midstream, mid-run, she looks over and she said, "I'm scared to go through puberty." And I was like, you know, and I'm just running and I'm like trying to figure out what I'm gonna say. And right away, the coaches are like, "You know, I was scared too. And it is scary, and it's okay, and this is this," and you know. The other thing I find when the girls transition into high school, the coaches come from all the different high schools, and they're there. They're like, "I saw Anna today," or "I saw Sylvie today," or "I saw Sylvana today." And that's part of one of the benefits to hiring the high school coaches that I didn't expect. Some of the things we talk about at Run Club every week is we talk about sleep, we talk about eating enough, trying new foods. We also eat together every week. We sit down, and we have cooking classes as well. And we talk about positive self-talk, which are huge. So we're not talking about we're just doing self-care. And sometimes it's really quick, right? It's like we're stretching and I'm like, "How'd you guys sleep last night?" Or "What's your highlight this week?" Or, you know, we talked last week, I asked them, "How do you react to stress?" And then the next week I was like, what do you do about it? And one of them was like, "I go see a counselor." And then 2 others were like, "Me too." And "Who do you go see?" And and just these little pieces. It's done quite organically, which is amazing. Then we piloted a camp. I had 30 girls the first time when Vanessa was on mat leave. I was like, oh, it's full on. It was amazing. And we had coaches come out. We also bring in people from the communities. Oh, this is a couple other pictures. Keep going.
You want me to keep going?
Yeah. We had Skills Canada come in and do cooking because they're promoting the trades. We pulled in, Maria's wonderful. We had people come in and do Zumba, yoga, kickboxing, spin. So they just come in and do little sessions because some of the girls don't love running. Sometimes they walk the whole time, but I don't care, you know. And sometimes people say to me, "Oh, you know, I want your program because I won the championships back in Nova Scotia in 1994. I'm like, "This isn't the program for you. Like, that's not our goal." Or maybe it is, but we ran a high school camp, which was really fun, and so that was this summer. And then we also ran 3 other camps as well. So here's a picture. We based it in Mercier, which was really nice. This is a picture of my daughter when we go to the market, and this is kind of the ripple effects, which I think is next. is we
can go to it.
yes.
You want to talk about it?
Let's just talk about the road relay really quick. Sorry. So another piece all summer we trained and we did the road relay. I was really nervous. There's such long distances for those girls. So I lost some sleep. I worried about it. We trained all summer. It was amazing. I cried at the end. I was a blubbery mess. Some of the girls ran like 27 kilometers. They would walk, run their leg, and then jump into somebody else's. You know, it was really, I broke every road relay rule there is. Do not tell Amanda Dooling. Some girls would be like, I'm tired, and I would take their bib off and put it on another one. Like, I didn't care. I just wanted them to, and which happened, right? They were so proud of themselves, and we kept moving. Some of the ripple effects, these are two of the girls from Run Club. We decided we would join all the school run clubs, and I would run with as many of them as I could. I went on my lunch hour, and then we would all go to the meets, and then I would run with them there. And some of them won ribbons. Look at their faces. I was like, I love these pictures because you finally believe what I've been telling you, that you're awesome. Look how proud they are in these pictures. I have them hung up in my office. Other things that were amazing, parents started running with the girls, walking with the girls, hiking with the girls, moving with them, brothers, sisters, dads. I never expected it's what I wanted, but that piece, that movement piece and community kind of came together. Why does this work? One of the things is I try to have no competition. So I said in my last run, I was like, because there's nowhere else to go. There's no competition. I'm the only run club, but that's not what I mean. Within the program, I have no competition. So it's a lot of game-based. I always say this when they come out, if you want to quit, you can quit. Like, just keep trying things to find what you love. So there's no pressure from them. It's free. It's very informal. And I think having it all girls, we also open it up to the LGBTQ plus community, allows them a space where they're not feeling as self-conscious because they're silly in these groups. I have grade 7s that are dancing around. Even last night, I had one girl just doing pirouettes around the whole gym while waiting. I can't imagine she'd be doing that if there was boys there with her. Some of the challenges, we're working on it, we're getting better at it, but getting the word out is difficult sometimes. The schools are overloaded, like the teachers are so exhausted, it's hard to get that message out there. Reapplying for funding can be difficult, and as well finding a safe space that's available at a time that makes sense. Right now we're running Monday, Wednesdays from 5 to 6, so right during dinner time, but that's all we could get this year. So.
Hello, I added 2 points to your slide.
Oh, I see them. I know.
She didn't know about this.
I started sweating a little bit more.
Like, what is that? I can talk about it if you want.
Well, I think I can. Yeah, if you want. Yeah, the communities, we talked about that on the last group. We started running programs. We just did a pilot where we went to Watson and ran a full day program with them, doing our favorite games and activities and mindfulness, and talked about some of the subjects that we talk about in Run Club. But it's hard to get to all of them. So we're looking at running programs and finding the champion in that community, but that definitely is a challenge. How come you have parents on there?
Oh, we love the parents. I just have parents on there because parental involvement is really helpful. Natalie emails parents and lets them know, tell your runners we're going to run outside today. And if there was a parent or a guardian that wasn't as involved with their runner's life, it would be harder for that runner to be engaged at this time. We're working on modifying the process so it's more inclusive, but it's just one of the challenges that I see.
Yeah, it's a lot. And sometimes I'll be like, how come they weren't there? I can't drive them, so I'll get them a drive. Like but it's still, it takes some work. Yeah. Successes. Right now we have a run club for grades 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and then coaches in the high school. So it's a bit of a longer term plan. We're trying to catch them when they're younger and then keep them involved, which is really amazing. The feedback from parents makes me cry. It's been really amazing. They keep coming back, which I love. And also that piece of my dream, like I'm having a connection for me that I was craving in my job. You know, and that's huge for me. And yeah, definitely providing that safe space, you know, and they've become this little posse, which is amazing. What's next? More community. Community is definitely on the top of our list for trying to get these programs out there. running more summer camps, March break camps. And just, I'm really, when the girls move into high school, I really want to keep that going with them, to have a space, especially in grade 8, because it can be really stressful to move into grade 8. And having a group, or maybe not, they're not with the grade 7s anymore, but having a high school group. Some of the trickle effects for myself, for my family. This is my daughter in the left. This picture went in the paper of her in the road relay, and someone was like, "Oh, that must have been at the start." And I was like, "That was her crossing the finish line." Look how high off the ground she is in this picture, which is hilarious. I've created this space for her, and it's been really amazing for me. That's my partner in crime in the middle running. He's not a runner, which I don't care, because he plays hockey and he bikes, but he's been coming out a little bit more, which is amazing. And my son likes playing soccer, but he doesn't like running, but he comes out on his bike with me, and it's really affected my family. And for my daughter and my son to see these amazing, strong girls pushing themselves and coming, and it's been really amazing. So yeah, in closing, too, I've been very fortunate, and Ian said this to me one day. He's like, "How do you job craft?" That's the word for it. How do you bring these things into your work? But I definitely challenge you to think about what are your passions and your dreams, and try to, if you can, bring them into your day life, because we spend a lot of time at work, and it should be a safe place, but it should also, be a place that inspires you. And I've been really lucky, and I challenge you to see if we can work at getting that for you as well. Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to Alex.
Please feel free to stand up while we switch it over. Stand up, stretch, shake your legs, because it's another 20 minutes of sitting.
She's a phys ed teacher, everybody. She knows the importance of movement. I will let him know. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I didn't give you very long, but my name is Alex Ingalls, and I am the Health Promoting Schools Coordinator in Kamloops, BC, which is situated on the traditional and unceded territory of the Secwepemc people. I want to thank you for having me here today. I really am honored to be here sharing about our after-school programs. I am very fortunate to work in a school district that has supported me along the way. They actually funded a full-time position that allowed me to coordinate after-school programs for 5 years. It is one of the best jobs I have ever had in my entire life. So I'm really excited to share with you about that. So in addition to enhancing students' health and well-being, we decided to come up with some pretty specific priorities. So as you can see here, the first priority was to connect students to their interests and passions, and with a safe and caring adult. And so just really thinking about why we're here around substance use and how important it is to be connected with caring adults. Secondly is to provide inclusive programming by reducing barriers to participation. So all of our programs are free for students. If students require any materials or equipment, it is provided for them for the duration of the program. If students don't have a ride home, then we actually partner with the local bands, especially in some of our more rural communities, to make sure that students have a safe ride home. And then thirdly, it's to build a community of trust and support. So just to give you a little bit of context, and I do want to clarify one thing. Up top there, you can see that we have ASI. That stands for the After School Sports and Arts Initiative, and this is funded by the Government of BC, specifically the Ministry of Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Sport. The reason, though, that I'm pointing out the title is actually they are in the currently working to change the title, and that's because the word sport can often be a barrier for some students. So we do recognize that sport is an important piece, but we also want to make sure that we are not solely focused on traditional sport. So our areas of focus are movement and sport, as well as the creative arts. And we target students in grades 4 to grade 12, starting with that grade 4 level, just because we've looked at our dropout rates and we know that that's where we're seeing kids leave extracurricular activities. This past year, we had just under 1,500 unique participants. So once they participate once, we never count them again in our numbers. And so the elementary, we had 918 participants, and for the middle and secondary, we had 576. And I just want to clarify, for our middle and secondary program numbers, those were specific to female identifying students as well as trans and or non-binary identifying students. And if I can just highlight there on the map, that is sort of this is the actual map of our school district. So it spans 27,000 square kilometers. So while we do have Kamloops as our main hub at 110,000 people, we do have a number of rural communities. So what I'm sharing with you today has worked in some of our rural communities. We've just had to get a bit more creative in our approach. So just to give you a really quick sort of idea of the after-school programs, this is just 1 minute. This by no means covers all of them. It's just a really little insight into them.
Hi, my name is Alan, and this is my after-school program.
This is our after-school program. This is our after-school program.
So typically in a school year, we would run about 90 programs across the district. So in 2019, we were very fortunate to have been selected as one of 3 pilot schools. It was a 3-year project to engage female identifying students in movement. When they asked us, obviously the immediate answer was yes. And I was so excited that I went and got some of my favorite instructors. I made some posters, I put them in schools, and I went and like 2 kids showed up. And I was crushed. I had no idea why they weren't showing up. So I had to press pause, do a little deep breathing, and really take some time to go into school. So I spent 4 months going into schools and talking to students about what it was that they actually wanted. The next part of that was following up with our parent and caregiver group as well to find out what they wanted for their students or their children. Once we had some of that information, I then went to our community and said, I think we need to do like a big kickoff event. Like we need to get the message out there. We need to build some excitement. And I need to know how we're going to do this. We need to kind of brainstorm. So what we did was we came up with our Empower Her Forum, and I'm just going to take 2 minutes to show you a quick video of the day.
We are at Empower Her 2020.
We're doing different exercises and we're learning about women empowerment and to like not be afraid to like be in your own skin and to be comfortable with yourself.
The purpose of today is just to really give girls an exposure to a variety of different physical activities and to connect them with incredible role models we have here in our community. We have 240 girls here from across the school district, so that's 40 girls from each school.
I did a bit of weightlifting, then I did Limbus, and I was just at kickboxing. I've never even heard of Limbus, but I really enjoyed it.
I did bar. I thought that was ballet at first. It was not ballet. It was an intense workout for the legs.
We did hit and pound. It's fun. It gets all your anger out.
We heard from so many girls today that this was the very first time they had tried any of these activities, which is the whole point, is to try and connect them with an activity of interest.
The last thing I did was spin class, and that was actually so cool. I actually stayed after, and I was like, can I get your information so I can come back? Because I was really, really into that.
Right when we finished that class, I was just like thinking to myself, I wonder if there's a class that I can actually go in, because that was loads of fun and I would love to do that every day.
I would totally try all of them again. I'd like to get more into these kinds of things.
We just really want to maybe help them establish some of those healthy habits that they can take with them for the rest of their lives.
With this generation of all like technology and stuff that we have, people get so focused on those kinds of things instead of being focused on things like physical activity, which are really good for you.
It's not only good for like your physical health, but also your mental health. It just makes you feel really good about yourself.
Each girl gets to leave here with a plan to continue in their own after-school program. Today is really just a taste of what the girls can expect over the next 16 weeks.
It has been a blast, honestly.
It makes you feel like you can do anything.
I would totally recommend this. It's so cool. I'm so happy I came.
As you can see there, that day would not have happened without all of our incredible community partners. It really was an entire community coming together to support young women. Thank you. All right, so some things that have worked for us, and I just want to add a disclaimer that this is what worked for us in our school district. I'm hoping that some of these things might be helpful, but I don't know that. I think it's really important to listen to our communities and find out what works best. But one thing that worked really well for us was actually connecting with adults. So one of the reasons that we heard when we went back to the student voice was that the students weren't connected to the adults. They didn't know who the adults were or what to expect. So we went into schools and actually identified their strongest connectors. So sometimes it was teachers, sometimes it was a school principal, sometimes it was a CEA or a LART. And we made sure that we brought them on board and we paid them to be there. So our strong connectors, they would also too do things like on the days where we offered program, they would go to the classrooms of the students and just a reminder, we're meeting up today. So just that personal connection and invitation. We also then, we also connected with our role models in the community. We really wanted students to know that this wasn't just a school initiative, it really was a citywide and school district-wide initiative. So really building that trust and support with our community partners. Once that trust was established, then we also took the opportunity to take students outside of their school buildings and into different community venues. I can't say enough about personal invitations. It's so important that we take the time to invite students and that we invite them multiple times. So students should never have to seek out an invitation. It's up to the adults to extend one. So that first time when I went into the schools, my beautiful posters, students didn't know what to expect. We need to go in and invite them personally. So for the Empower Her Forum, one of the things that we did was not only did we personally invite them when they were there, but we also they received handwritten invitations letting them know that we wanted them there and that they would have a really great time. Voice and choice. So I always talk about in my work, we talk about the ABCs, the protective factors of substance use amongst youth. And we talk about like autonomy, belonging, and competence. And I really do, we did want to acknowledge that this is students' free time. They're choosing to spend their free time with us. So that's a huge honor. So we really wanted to give them a say in what they did. So we did that through student surveys, suggestion boxes, group discussions, and that was such a powerful thing to go in and witness and to hear students talking about the different things that they wanted to try. It was also a really exciting thing because there was funding to support it. So it was one of those things, the sky really is the limit. And so it was a really powerful, powerful time. I did want to note that there was an emphasis on lifestyle physical activities. With the exception of wheelchair basketball, I have yet to see a group that has chosen to participate in traditional sports. But really, as much as we want them to be engaged in movement, it was so much about helping them find joy in movement. We know how important movement is, and we know how important it is for their mental well-being and how important joy is in life. So really taking the time to expose them to a variety of activities and hoping to just connect them with one of those. And belonging and connection. Super, super important one here. We know how important it is. For us, it wasn't just belonging as a group, as a collective, it also meant fostering belonging and connection to the school. We really wanted them to know that the school was a safe place. So we always started all of our programs in the school, so that establishing that connection. In terms of the actual programming, I talk about the Walmart welcome. If you've ever been to Walmart, you know that every single person that walks in those doors is greeted. So that was what we wanted to do. So we learned every single one of their names. Every time they walked in, we greeted them by name. We let them know that they were important to us. Team building happens throughout the year. It doesn't matter if it's September, February, June. We are constantly embedding team building activities into our programs. And that's really too with the hope that maybe we have new students joining as they're hearing about it. So just really focusing on that inclusion piece. The next slide here is one that I am really proud of. So this, we always do our student surveys, as well as we collected some parent feedback. So we had over 200 parent and caregivers respond to this survey. And what we see here is that 96% of students said they had an increased sense of belonging and connectedness to the school as a result of participating in after-school programs. Parents, they also supported that. So we had 73% of parents who indicated that they saw an increase in their child's sense of belonging to the school. And when we followed up with them, it was stuff about on Tuesdays when Empower Her is happening, that's my child's favorite day to go to school. They're always more excited on those days. Or they talk about connecting with an adult who they met in the group. And then figure 3 there is the sense of safety. And as I mentioned in the other sessions, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit crushed when I saw that it wasn't at 100%. And I was also really concerned about why students weren't feeling safe in the programs. I am so incredibly grateful that the 3 students who indicated they weren't feeling safe in the program also included their names, so we were able to follow up with them. And as it turned out, it actually wasn't the programming, but it was the walk home afterwards. So for us in the winter, it's pitch black by 4:30, and the programs finish at 5. So we were very fortunate to also then be able to partner with the City of Kamloops, who then provided free transportation passes to youth in our programs. Snacks. Natalie talked about food. Food is so important. Sometimes that's what gets them there, and we're so happy to provide it. If they're gonna come and eat and we know that they're gonna have a great time and leave with a full belly, we're so happy. So food is really important for getting students there. And lastly, I just want to talk about the magic of art. We have one middle school. So it doesn't fit the elementary model, doesn't fit the secondary model. We were struggling to get students involved, and we couldn't really figure out what it was. We'd talk to them, we'd plan these events, we'd plan these activities, we'd get there, and maybe there'd be 5 students showing up. So it wasn't until the art teacher, Amanda Olson, and she's an incredible connector, she offered to facilitate an art activity in the art room. That one session, 30 students showed up for. So it was one of those things where it reduced a barrier to participation. From there, and I'm just actually going to read that quote. So the best thing about this program is there's so many people who have a mutual understanding of just wanting to be creative and wanting a safe space. It gives us a space to be ourselves. So Amanda truly did foster that safety and sense of security and trust. And so what we were able to do over a 10-week period was slowly incorporate movement activities. So students were more willing to take those risks and try new things when they were facilitated by Amanda. And Amanda would be the first person to say that she's not a mover. She really is. She's incredible. But they did that with her, and they were willing to be vulnerable with her. So on that note, I just want to say that it is really about having strong connectors in buildings who care about people who can make all the difference.
Thank you. Now we got some, oh, you want to clap? You can clap. Clap for that. That's a cool program. We've got time for questions now. If there's any in the chat, I will be told. And if you want, you can come up to the microphone and get started. They're interesting programs. You probably want to know, how can I do this? What can we do differently? Any questions? Come on up. Oh, it's a battle for the microphone.
Hello. Okay, I just have a question about what you have said about strong connectors, and it's for both of you, actually. One thing that I've noticed in my past work with youth is that a lot of the programs can really be based around those strong connectors. And so when they leave a community or they leave a role, they leave a gap. And I'm just wondering how both your programs might address that.
Can you pass that down? You've got one beside you. Oh. Sorry, just got to share microphones here.
I'm going to leave this question to Alex because you're welcome, by the way. Because, okay, go ahead.
It is always tricky when you leave, or when great people leave community, and we do experience that, and I see it all the time. One of the things that, or I guess, we have tried to always pair people up too, so that we can focus on a bit of that role modeling even amongst staff, so that if somebody does leave, hopefully there's somebody who can step in and then work with another person. But also too, it's so important that when people do leave, that we also give space for new people coming up to bring their passions and interests in. And we talked earlier about sometimes it doesn't matter what your passion is. If you're passionate about it and you bring that excitement, students will come. And so we talked about different knitting programs and whatever it may be, but it is definitely more of a challenge that we see in our more rural communities. But the mentorship piece is so far has been really beneficial for our staff.
And I can speak to that because Nat is about to go on deferred leave in a few weeks, and she's going to leave me, the running club, and I am not a runner. I am the first to be like, I'll be the sweep. I like running to an extent, but I'm not running 100 miles anytime in my life ever. Sorry, maybe eventually. And so we are coming up against that problem exactly. And I struggled with it, like, I don't have the passion. But Nat has been very clear, make the program what interests you and what interests the girls. One of our coaches loves curling. So we're gonna see if she can run a curling night for the girls and show them how to do. Another one likes to cook. So can we get out and do more cooking together? I'll bring in some of my interests, and I like playing games. I like being with the kids. So we've got this gap for a year at least. I mean, if it was longer, if Nat was leaving for good, I would look at modifying the program slightly to match my interests. But she's got a year, she'll be back. She's around. She'll come back with this passion, so I can keep it going till then and infuse my passions within it as well. So I feel lucky that we have that opportunity. Any other questions? Ian, you were racing for the microphone before?
Me again, sorry.
Anybody online with questions that I'm missing? Okay. Go ahead.
Thanks, Nat and Alex, and thanks for being here, Alex. We so appreciate that you took the time to come up here and be with us. Amazing presentations. I wanted to ask you, I'm sort of connecting this to one of the previous breakouts on positive physical and social spaces where we talked about the skate park. I think skate parks are magical places, but one of the gaps or deficits of them is that they're really male dominated. I mean, that pie chart you had of the 2%, like that's what it looks like for males versus females at the skate park. So this might be an obvious question, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it anyway. My question is it important to try and figure out ways for young women to sort of infiltrate those male-dominated spaces? And if it's important, how do we sort of support that? How does it happen?
There was someone in the last session that mentioned this same question, and they suggested, running programs for girls and then running programs possibly for boys, and then having opportunities where they could connect together. And I thought it was a really interesting piece, because they asked why we didn't run it, why we specifically chose girls, and then talked about the gap with young men. We just don't have the capacity right now, and we're just getting on our feet. I'm not sure if that's the answer, but I think that giving them the confidence at the skate park, possibly even, and having somebody in there where they would have a space to practice and fall and do all these things, not in front of everybody, definitely would help. And then maybe bringing them together. But I thought it was a great idea when they mentioned it last session.
Yeah, I would just follow that up with, it's so important for that confidence and competence piece, I think, to be able to try something new in a safe space, to build up that competence. And then with that, I think that then students or females might be more likely to want to go into some of those spaces. So I think it's providing environments that will allow them to practice. We talk all the time in our after school programs about the actual physical space and how important it is to find a physical space where students do feel safe in, building up their confidence there, and then going into different spaces with those same adults so that they know that they're supported. So I do think it's a gradual build up, but I think that it starts with the confidence and competence piece.
I think we also have to check what their interests are. I mean, if they are interested in skateboarding, then we should make that happen. But start, like Alex's presentation really highlighted to me, asking the students, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? And they're going to report. But they do need to try some things they haven't tried before to see. So, any other questions from the group? Yeah, come on up. I'm wearing your earrings today.
I know, you look beautiful.
Thank you. You did a beautiful job making them.
Thank you. They look really good on you. It's good to hold people up and compliment. Every time, if I see someone and I'm like, I like those earrings, I'll tell them, because you can make someone's day.
Love that.
Just don't be weird about it.
And your eyes. And
yeah,
your
that is when it's
too
like,
far,
no.
too far.
Okay, so my question was, how do you know that like you're doing enough? Because I know that like when it comes to programs, because I loved how both of you, like I was thinking about when I was younger, I probably would have loved that. Like that would have been awesome. So I'm like so glad to hear about that, and that's a opportunity for these younger people. And so I guess like one of you said like you did 90 programs or something, and so like because it's like you were talking in districts, I don't really understand if that's like a lot or not a lot. So I guess for both of you, how do you know, like do you have a target or a goal, or do you have an envision, like say they're lower than you want, do you have an envision for what you think would be like good and proficient amount of activities for these younger kids? I don't know. Thank you.
It's a great question. Thank you. Who wants to go first?
I think if I could have a program that people could feel safe and welcome in all the communities that was open to them, that would be ideal to start for sure. Yeah, I know I always think about this question. It's my 3 a.m. question. How can I make it more accessible to more people that need it? So yeah, I think that there's only room to grow, and I don't know I think just building is, I don't know, I don't have an end dream other than everybody finding their passion and taking care of their mental health, which anyway.
So to answer the 90 program part, so we offer programming in 19 of 45 schools. So there is absolutely room to grow and expand. It is something that we are constantly striving for and applying for additional funding to be able to do. I think that eventually, maybe the end goal, and maybe this is way too optimistic, but that eventually we wouldn't need programs because students would have opportunities that they're inspired to participate in outside within the community. And but until we get there, we're super happy to continue to offer programs. And like you said, though, it's something that we are always wanting to do more of and get better at.
We have a question from the chat. Do you have a sense of how many First Nation young women get involved with your program? And the same question for involvement with LGBTQ2S+ folks.
We chatted in some of the other groups as well about having to maybe team up to do some
data analysis,
yes.
Data, any kind. We're a bit grassroots at this point. Yes. We're going to work on having some metrics.
I know we definitely have some representation as to how many. I'm not 100% sure.
We have about 40 girls in the program in total, and we haven't in Whitehorse and just in Whitehorse, and we haven't asked them for any to identify in any way.
We have about a third of our students who identify as Indigenous. We don't actually measure in terms of if somebody identifies in the LGBTQ+ community. If they want to disclose that for us, that's great. But for us, we are actually using their personal education numbers. So it's sort of the data that they have chosen to share with the school system.
Thanks, Caitlin, for that question. I was wondering that too. Any other questions on the chat or in the room? People want to, is everybody getting dreams now about what you want to do for your passion project? How you can bring it to the youth? We are at 3:15. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Or do we have a little more time?
I guess you just ran to go ask Tosh. Really?
Okay, then I'm going to ask you one other question that I've been wondering and we haven't talked about yet. What would be little or big things that you could change about your program if you could change something about your program now? A modification.
Well, after seeing Alex's presentation.
We want to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, little or big. Just if any, you can make any modifications to your program. If there's something that you like, sky's the limit, you wish you could reach for, that could be changed about the program.
There's a lot. One of the things that I wish we could go back to, just that comes to mind, is we used to offer really cool Cook It, Try It, Like It programs that would expose.
Can you say that slower? What?
Oh, sorry. Cook It. Sorry, I talk fast. Cook It, Try It, Like It. And it was a program that exposed students to a variety of healthy foods, and they would get to try everything, cook it, and then have enough to take home to be able to do it with their family. Unfortunately, just with COVID, that funding no longer exists, but I think that that was a really great initiative because it brought families together. And I think that if we can bring sort of what we foster in the programs into homes, I think that's pretty special.
I want my 4-year-old to do Cook It, Try It, Like It. Maybe he'd eat more. Anything for you, Natalie? No, you're reaching your dreams? Okay. Thanks everyone for being here today. We're going to pause here. If you have any questions, these two are approachable. You can come up to them anytime. I now know I have a passion to try to get this after school program happening in Whitehorse, so talk to me if you have an idea how to fund it. Thank you.
Thank you.